Recording in progress, Raphael. Very welcome. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you, Maurizio.
So I'm so happy to have you here, and we are aware that we are facing an amazing journey. You actually started to work in this field when you were only 4 years old, a little boy. That's amazing.
Yeah. I was living in New York City. I was born in New York City, and it was a show called Sesame Street at the time, and they were looking for kids, and I started there. My mother was a theatrical costume designer, so I did my first play at 7 at a theater that she was uh, working at, and then worked at regionally, and then did my first Broadway show at 16, and anyway, I've been working my whole life, and I'm very grateful. It's been a great journey.
Yeah, it's been a great journey. Just to mention something, Independence Day, the iconic Once Upon a Time, The Guardian, and many others. But today, I want to talk about a different Raphael, the Raphael Sbarge behind the camera, because at a certain moment you decided to start directing non-fiction movies specifically. So I want to know your vision about that, your inspirations, and why you decided, to start to tell amazing stories to the whole world.
Yeah, I mean, I had never sort of aspired to be a director. I was always an actor, and I know some people, from the age of 4 wanted to be a director, and I in some ways wish perhaps that I had started a little sooner. But I at some point, as a storyteller, it was an extension of how I told stories, and having been on sets and around cameras and with crews, it was a natural sort of extension. The fact is that it actually kind of began almost backwards in a way, because I started an environmental nonprofit called Greenwish, and Greenwish was a reaction, honestly, to just being a father and being in the world and looking around and trying to sort of figure out what I could do, how I could contribute as now, having um, this next generation ahead of us. I mean, there's that wonderful moment when you're handed your child, and my daughter,
I
and yet at the same
understand.
time you feel very vulnerable in the world. It's
I
it's a
understand.
very we live in a complicated world. So I wanted to figure out a way to do something. So I started this environmental nonprofit, and its aim was to raise money locally for um, other nonprofits that were doing important kind of work within the community. And we began to open chapters all around the country. We had 7 or 8 different chapters at one point, and it started to get it did very well. We raised quite a bit of money, and then I it just got too big with everything else. I couldn't manage it and everything else, so I pivoted kind of the environmental raising money for organizations kind of point of view, and in the course of working with Greenwish, we had gotten a bunch of grant money, and the grant money was to essentially begin to make movies about some of these nonprofits and these organizations that I became familiar with
Yeah.
in Los Angeles.
And we are trying to make an effort together about that, which I really want to take advantage and thank you. But yes, I understand that it is a very relevant responsibility that you have as a foundation. I mean, not you personally, obviously, for helping to make this place a better place for the next generation. And this, getting back to your work as a director, you had a lot of fun at a certain point because you won also an Emmy Awards, with the PBS series, and so I'd like to understand how did you feel about that? I mean, how was it when you won it?
Oh, well, look, we start these journeys not to win an award, right? You do it because you have a passion to tell. I mean, people ask about, what do you need to make a movie? And I say, well, we know all the other things, but I think the singular most important thing is passion, because without the passion, you can't get everything else. The passion is how you raise the money. The passion is how you get the crew. Passion is how you show up every day, and the passion is how you see it through to the end. I met someone who it really, his story and his family story really moved me, and I got the support of the network. They put money into it, and I got some extraordinary filmmakers to work with me, and we were very proud of it. But how amazing to get the Emmy, of course, and to be able to kind of my wife also was a producer on the project, so she got an Emmy. So we have two Emmys here on the mantelpiece, and it's a lovely thing. It's a lovely professional honor. So
Sure,
I'm
sure.
pleased about that.
So, Buzz of Transformation is such an inspiring project to me, and we share this adventure. And I'd like to know what made you to decide to be part of that.
Yeah, well, look, you and I started talking. I loved that you also were thinking about the environment. That you obviously, I was aware of your work as a filmmaker, and I'd seen the beautiful work you'd done. You explained to me that you had been able to kind of corral enormous amounts of sort of really substantial people to really talk about a very important subject, which is in this case bees. And you might hear, well, bees. It almost sounds like a punchline, but the fact is that bees are uh, they are everything. Without them, we are completely we're lost. Everything sort of ties back to bees in so many ways, and we are. Well, you have really sort of had this vision to be able to tell a story with Apamondia, the international organization that really does represent and
Sure.
really is an advocate for bees, as well as then the UN, and then other sort of uh, other filmmakers, and you have a very big vision to be able to tell a story of bees in a way that hadn't been told before, and using both your formidable talents as a filmmaker, and then being able to then bring in other filmmakers who can then tell various stories in their part of the world. That's exciting. That's interesting to me, and I also, I work in the commercial world. I'm very um pardon me.
Bless
um,
you. Yeah, yeah. We are living a life with wonderful invisible things, and some of them are virus. So I hope
Yes, no, that's right.
you're gonna be
Pollen,
fine.
another right.
Yes,
We being able to figure out a way to be able to, do things that actually give back, that actually use the power of this medium, which is
sure.
storytelling, to be able to kind of really affect and,
Yeah,
change hearts and minds, and really kind of build awareness, an emotional bond, as well as then also a sort of a instill in people a sort of a desire to want to try and find a way to connect, and find a way for them to be able to kind of bring their choices, their actions, their awareness to how important bees are. So beautiful stories, beautifully told in extraordinary places around the world.
around the world. Yeah,
It's an exciting project to be a part of.
yeah, yeah. And let me talk for a second about the collective, because this is going to be a real collective opera. With us, we're going to have Bernd Wells, a German director, very well known for environmental work that he has been doing. And we have an amazing special effect CG guy, Tulio Hernandez, who worked for Avatar, Independence Days, like you, and even Star Wars. And he will help to give us some magic out of that. Then we have Diane Kochilas. Diane is a very good friend. She's hosting a TV show in PBS about Greek cuisine, but she's very well aware about the importance of biodiversity and good living because she lives in a little village in Icaria, which is one of the blue zone, and so and then we are going to have some more. So we have a very different perspective in this collective, and I think it is probably the first time that a bunch of filmmakers, authors, and journalists are putting together their effort and talent, to protect not only the bees, but the work of millions of people that are with the microeconomy behind the value of bees. But talking about that, I want to touch with you a very important issue, in my opinion. So, filmmaking is something interesting, and I believe that independent filmmaking, sorry, is even more interesting, and it is a powerful tool of democratization. But could you please help us to understand which is the difference between an independent filmmaker and a production, backed by big major or a broadcaster?
Right. So ultimately, we see it the same way. It's either on the screen or on our television or on our computer. You can't maybe necessarily tell the difference other than maybe some of the visual effects or some of the kind of the fancy flourishes. But essentially, content, at least as a consumer sees it, may look the same, but it's not. When you work as an independent filmmaker outside the system, that's outside of a studio system or outside of a network, that is a television network. You are making your own choices. You're raising your own money. You are bringing forward. You're working with people that you have relationships with. And there are four parts of filmmaking, right? There's the pre-production, which involves also raising money. There's the actual production, which is brutal. Then there's the post, which is the assembling it, which is also brutal. And then there's the marketing. And they're four mountains. And any filmmaker, any independent filmmaker can die on any one of those mountains. You can have a great movie and not have good marketing, and you can die. You can have a great idea and not have the money and die. You can, fall apart on the shoot, or that it doesn't come together in post, and you have all the other things. So these are the four kind of things that you have to do. But as an independent filmmaker, you are literally making those choices, making those decisions, and doing it yourself. And it is it's a great testament to the individual who can actually create from as an independent filmmaker. But it's also where true vision and ideas and fresh approaches and often non-commercial approaches to things that don't necessarily aren't the if something is defined as commercial, it's kind of it's good for everyone. It's sort of can be a McDonald's approach, right?
Yeah.
It's sort of when you're working as an independent filmmaker, you have a unique vision and you are seeing that through. And it is, to my humble opinion, it is where the most exciting work happens.
Yeah, it is exciting, but it is also very tough, as you know. It's a
Tough,
struggle. It's a struggle, huh? And that's
tough.
why it's nice. I mean, and sometimes I think that I could be in a beach in a tropical place, uh, sipping a long drink. But at the very end of the day, when I wake up in the morning and I have to struggle for this thing, I'm really happy and I feel alive. And also, I feel that it is so nice to, at this point of my life at least, to have the possibility of leaving a little, from my humble point of view, legacy, for my grandson, and so I'm happy, for this big effort that I'm putting in that. And
This is a giant effort, Maurizio. I mean, obviously, you've lived a life as a filmmaker. You've worn many hats. You've done many projects. This particular project is, I don't know if you've done anything this scale, but it is giant. And it is potentially very exciting. And again, it has that element, which is, it really is about something that matters. It really is about
Absolutely.
something
Absolutely.
that is about a legacy and about, really affecting other generations.
So, as you know, as part of this project, we launched a crowdfunding, and we made it essentially because we wanted to have a bottom-up financial strategy, mostly to keep our independence, and also to create a community of stakeholders. So the people that will donate in this crowdfunding will be part of the project, and this will give us even more power as a voice. And talking about the crowdfunding, in your view, why the people should participate donating to this project?
Crowdfunding is a wonderful thing, and it's done. I've been a part of crowdfunding before, and it has really a way of doing multiple things. One of the things it does is it actually builds awareness. Because as people are looking, it gets on people's radar. There's so much noise out there, and to break through that noise and to connect with people and say, hey, what do you think? It's like voting in a way. It's like voting with your dollars, where you're saying, do you like this project? Do you want to see it happen? And then people literally sending 5, 10, whatever amount they can afford. Essentially, we hope for more, of course, but even small amounts make a difference. And what they do by doing that is that they say, yes, we like this vision. We are excited about this, and we want to see it. So what it does also is it creates an early connection between, in this case, the filmmaker and then the audiences who then want to make it happen. It's very democratic, right? Because
Yeah.
you're voting with your dollars. You're saying, I'm looking for something outside of what is maybe the norm, the most commercial, the most kind of mainstream. I'm interested in something else. And honestly, these projects often cannot happen without that kind of support. The amount of money that it requires to do something and do it well, particularly not even just the filming, but the post-production and the marketing. It's expensive, and it's wildly expensive. And so because again those four mountains, in order to be able to get over those four mountains, one needs financial support to make it happen. And again, by choosing to be independent, which is what you've done, which means that you're not encumbered by a network or a studio saying, no, we don't want to talk about that, or no, that's too risky, or no, that's not good for our sponsors. What you get to do is actually work outside of all of that. And then people, by essentially donating and giving us support, give us the ability to sort of pick up the flag and carry it and do something sort of special. And I think, unique and important.
Okay, thank you very much, Raphael. I agree 100% with that vision. And before I let you go to your family, because today, by the way, is Saturday, so I hope you're gonna have a nice day with your family. Uh, I'd like to ask you to give us a message to the millions of beekeepers, which at the very end, together with the bees, are the heroes of these stories we're going to tell.
Yeah. So bees are small but mighty, and they are the cornerstone of so much that we care about, and they are part of our sustenance. They are part of the joy in our life. They literally provide, they are the connective tissue that makes so much possible. The beekeepers are obviously like the big mothers and fathers, the caretakers of these small but mighty insects that are there, doing God's work, right? And they are making it possible. We are profoundly grateful, all of us. And there should be a international beekeepers awareness day or beekeepers appreciation day. It should be instituted, but in light of that, allow me to say thank you to the beekeepers that make so much possible, and we you do great work, and we hope to be able to support your vision going forward.
I get advantage about what you're saying because it does exist, the World Bee Day, and you're gonna be with me in the World Bee Day in Addis Ababa with an event that FAO is organizing, and we are gonna screen something. The beginning of the journey, the first step, the first mountain probably already climbed, I hope, So I believe, Raphael, that with some millions of people that every day are spending time and effort with the bees, we are creating a big buzz. And so I really hope that everybody can feel this buzz as much as we are feeling. And I promise we are going to create 24 at least wonderful and amazing stories about, let's say, people that are making the extraordinary through the help of this little insect, which is something more for the life of the people. Thank you.
Thank you, Mauricio. Thank you for the work you're doing. Thanks for bringing all these wonderful artists together and all these important stakeholders and making it happen.
Thank you for being with us. It was very nice. And I'll catch you up soon.
Okay, very
Bye
good.
bye.
Thank you, Mauricio. Ciao.